four-door international pickup truck and headed out on whatever quest he had in mind. As we drove, my dad told us the plan. We need to fix the garage roof, and you two are going to help me. My brother and I stayed silent, listening to hear what this meant. Before I met your mom, I worked on roofing jobs in Seattle. We can fix the entire garage roof ourselves. I had no idea what this plan entailed, but if my dad was into it, then I was going along with it. No questions asked. We drove a couple of miles down to the corner of Inglewood and Manhattan Beach Boulevard and parked in the Builders Emporium parking lot. At the store, my dad filled a cart with all the things we needed for the job. Rolls of roofing tile, tar paper, and a huge box of roofing nails. As he pushed the cart toward the checkout, he said, "Wait, one more thing." We took a detour down the tool aisle and stopped in the hammer section. He looked around a bit and then chose two identical hammers from the racks. They both had iron claws painted black with solid wood handles. He gave one to my brother and one to me. "Tools of the trade," he said. "There is nothing more useful than a good claw hammer." He turned the cart around and we headed to the checkout lanes. My brother and I each carried our new claw hammers to the checkout. Part 2, the work site. "I'll pay you each 50 cents an hour, but you have to do everything I say," my dad told us. My brother and I were standing in the back behind the garage, next to a pile of roofing supplies, listening. "First thing, get your hammers." My brother and I both went for the supplies at the same time. I reached for my hammer, but my brother was sure it was his. We were 7-year-old twin brothers who shared everything. Sometimes we just wanted to stake a claim to something of our own. We started to argue. "That's mine," I said. "No, it's mine," my brother responded. I grabbed the handle and my brother grabbed the claw, each pulling in the opposite direction. "Stop," I said. "No," my brother said. My dad quietly watched us for a bit, then he spoke. "Do you want me to get you two girls a couple of purses so you can fight this one out?" It was inappropriate. It was not politically correct in the least, but it was totally my dad. It stung, and it worked. I stopped in my tracks and let go of the hammer. My brother took it, and I picked up the identical one next to it. It felt good in my hand, solid. The wood was smooth, and the slight curves of the handle were inviting to hold. We both stood at attention and listened to what my dad had to say next. He started up like nothing had happened. "First, we need to remove the existing tiles from the garage. You do it like this." My dad climbed onto the roof of the garage. It was a very short climb, as the back was about 8 feet higher in elevation than the ground the garage stood upon. This meant you could easily access the roof from there. Even 7-year-old boys could do it with the help of a step stool. My dad stood up on the roof and walked over to a row of tiles. He sat down and started pulling up on one of the rectangular pieces. The tile gave way just enough to pull out the end of the existing nails. He then slipped the claw hammer underneath them and yanked them free. Then he grabbed the tile with a gloved hand, freed it, and tossed it into the brush of the back. He put the old nails in an empty Folgers coffee can. "One down, 1,000 to go," he said. "Now get up here and get started." Besides a hammer, my dad supplied us both with a pair of gloves and a pair of goggles, just in case something got near our eyes. My brother and I both climbed up on the roof using a step stool and started working. Under the mid-morning sun, sweat came easily, and the goggles fogged up very quickly. I had to remove them several times before I finished even one tile. The first tiles were difficult, but after a few, we got the hang of it. I jammed the claw of the hammer underneath the tile and twisted it down, pushing the handle towards the garage roof. The tile sprang up, exposing the nails that had once held it in place. I removed the nails with my gloved hand and put them in the coffee can, just like my dad showed me. What would have been impossible for a 7-year-old kid without the tool became a simple, repeatable task with a claw hammer. After an hour, my dad announced, "You each just earned 50 cents. The idea of getting 50 cents an hour was as much motivation as my brother and I needed. Even though the sun was hot and beating down on us, we kept going for at least another 3 hours before we stopped for lunch. After lunch, we spent the rest of the day up on the roof with my dad, pulling up tiles with the flaw side of the hammer, removing the nails, putting them in the Folgers coffee can, and then throwing the tiles in the backyard. As we worked, my dad told my brother and I stories about his childhood, stories we had never heard before that day. "Your granny and Gramps sent my brother John and I to a boarding school named Monument when we were kids," he started. "Why did they send you there?" I asked. My dad took a long pause before he answered. He pulled out the tile he was working on and tossed it off the roof. It hit the ground a bit harder than the ones he had previously thrown. Because it was the Great Depression and they didn't have any money to keep us around. Monument School was on a farm in New York State. It was like an orphanage for kids whose parents had to work in the city. As long as we worked on the farm, we could go to the school for free." "What did you do there?" my brother asked. "We farmed, we camped, we fished, we even got to ride horses sometimes. There was a movie theater and a store in town where we could buy 6 pieces of candy for a penny." "It sounds like fun," I said. "I hated every minute of it," my dad replied. "They sent me there when I was 4 years old. One day my mom, dad, John, I, and Poochie the dog were a happy family, and the next day my mom drove us out to the end of that road and dropped us off. She never told us what was happening. She just drove away, and the people at school took us in." "How long were you there?" my brother asked. 8 years, until I went to high school. I never saw Poochie again. My parents moved to a small apartment in New York, so there's no room for us. We were allowed to come home just a couple times a year." I couldn't imagine this. I lived in the same house with my twin brother, 2 sisters, my mom, my dad, and the cats. It had always been that way, and I was pretty sure it would always be that way. But my dad continued. "I recall the first winter when I realized we'd not be going home for Christmas. I begged my mom to send me my ice skates, so at the very least I could skate on the pond at school. She never sent them. In the summer, we didn't go home either. Instead, we were sent to live with family friends in Pennsylvania. My brother hated me for it." "Your brother hated you?" I asked. I looked at my brother. We argued sometimes, but we never hated each other. "Oh, yeah. He was older than me. He blamed me for having to go away. He said everything was fine until you came along. He beat the crap out of me any chance he got." My dad stopped pulling up nails and looked up at my brother and I. We both stopped using our hammers so we could hear what he had to say. "I told myself at the time," he started, "if I ever had kids of my own, I would never send them away, and I would never make them go to boarding school." He continued his pause, then he reached down, pulled up a fresh tile, and removed the nails. The conversation was over. My brother started back up too. We worked the rest of the afternoon. I thought a lot about what my dad had told us. It unlocked some of the mysteries about my dad's father. Now I knew why Gramps never shared any stories about my dad's childhood with me. He didn't know any. He was never around. We managed to pull up all the tiles of the roof by 5:30 of that evening. "Time to knock off," my dad said to us. "Good work, men. That was 10 hours today, so you each earned $5. Let's get out early tomorrow so we can get up here and finish the job." My brother and I went into the house and ate dinner of chili and hot dogs, our usual Saturday meal. By 7 o'clock that night, both of us were tired and sore and ready for bed. We went into our room and got out our Statomatic baseball game. $5 each, I said as I pulled the first batter from my stack of player discs. I laid down Babe Ruth on the spinner and flicked the arrow. "Yeah," my brother said. "What should we do?" Maybe we can go to Toys R Us tomorrow," I said. "Toys R Us, yeah," my brother replied. The spinner stopped on strikeout. Babe Ruth had a lot of home runs in his days, but he struck out even more. "Okay," I said. "We'll see if Mom can take us tomorrow afternoon. And don't forget, if we work hard enough tomorrow, we can make even more money." As always, I went to sleep in my own bed that night. It was not much of a bed, mind, as it was just a half piece of foam mattress laid on a piece of plywood. My brother had the same, yet sleep felt comfortable and nice. I was in my own house with my brother, my sisters, my cats, and my parents. It was not the Great Depression, and I was not at some boarding school in New York away from everything I knew and loved. Part 3. A hole burned in my pocket. We woke up Sunday morning and both jumped out of bed ready for the workday. It was still early when we went out to the kitchen to see what was going on. My mom was at her seat at the kitchen table, sipping coffee and playing solitaire. My dad was at the counter, grinding corn to make his corn cakes. Next to the grinder was a bowl of my dad's infamous health concoction, grape juice, egg whites, and pecans. We kids affectionately called it pink party puke. "We will start working in an hour, boys," my dad said. This gave my brother and I just enough time to get dressed, eat a couple of corn cakes, and watch a half an hour Tom Hatton's Popeye show on Channel 5. My dad made corn cakes with blueberries, but I spent a lot of time eating around them, as the texture was a bit like biting into a dead spider on a piece of cardboard. Just after an episode of Super Chicken, my dad announced it was time to get back out and finish the job. My dad spent the first half hour preparing the tar paper for the roofing job. He wants to roll the tar paper approximately the length of the roof, then cut it. He did this several times until he had enough to cover the whole thing. My brother and I climbed up the now bare roof of the back and helped my dad lay down the tar paper in long strips and then nailed it into place. After starting each nail with a few taps, my dad showed us how to swing the hammer down with the whole of our forearm, instead of just bending to swing at the wrist. By using the whole forearm to swing, we could knock most nails in with a single hit. As we worked, it was hard to think of anything else but what we might buy at Toys R Us that afternoon with money we made from the job. What could we get? Would there be any toys from the new Star Wars movie everyone was talking about? What about some new dominoes we could pull